Assalamu alaikum. JB. Today marks the beginning of.
Keep your mic close, speak little loud.
Today marks the beginning of 7th year behind bars for Sharjeel Imam. 6 years, 2119 days without conviction, without trial to reach conclusion. Punishment came before proof. A staggering amount of time for a young scholar to be removed from the library, from the classroom, from his family. And this was not merely about one individual. In fact, 6 years have already passed. Should feel every citizen, those who believe in democracy, is not just a paper, it's beyond that. Sharjeel's speech, whether one may politically agree or disagree, it must be articulated within a tradition of mass civil resistance. That what was the core argument, government's argument against Sharjeel's speech was based on specific vocabulary, specifically Chakka Jam. In intellectual space, we have to understand what is Chakka Jam. Historically and sociologically, Chakka Jam means disruption, not refusal to let the machinery run smoothly, freely, when one part of the population feel it's being erased. So in democracy, disruption is not same as destruction. We have to understand the difference between protest, demonstration and protest. What is protest demonstration? People gather at one place, raise slogans, hold placards, and they submit memorandums, and they disperse. They express their disagreements, but it does not fundamentally disrupt the functioning of the state. On the other hand, the protest is meant to disrupt the normal functioning of the state, normal functioning of the machinery. For example, in JNU, if a student organization goes in front of JNU administration block, holding placards, raising slogans for an hour, and they leave. So administration will not respond much for those, because it is not stopping the normal functioning of the administration. But if the same students going and blocking the administration functioning the completely, why? What is the purpose behind it? Government, state, machinery, institution should listen. Only if we operate to some different form of protest, they will listen to us. So when Shaheen Bagh movement began, it was incredibly powerful and more efficient. It captured international and national attention. But over the period of time, as happens with many other movements, it slowly started losing its efficiency and significance. At that time, Sharjeel Imam wanted to expand that protest beyond one location, beyond Shaheen Bagh, into a wider coordinated blockade. So that was the point of Chakka Jam. He wanted to expand that movement from one location to another. So the point was efficiency, not aggression. That is effectiveness, not terrorism. So that was the point of efficiency. If we want our voices to be heard, we need to think like Sharjeel. Only if we think like Sharjeel, our voices will be heard, otherwise our voices will be ignored. That's for sure. That was his only motivation. But government twisted his words, took them out of context, and built a narrative under sedition. Sedition under colonial law was meant to protect British crown from Indian nationalism. It was never meant to protect an elected government from criticism. Under UAPA, the conviction rate is barely 2%. What is it telling? It means 98% of people are eventually found innocent, but only after spending 5 to 10 years in jail. You can see like in many media, newspapers, if any Muslim is being arrested for some cases, only suspicion, not proven innocent. If any Muslim is being arrested, the core in heading, a Muslim terrorist has been arrested. But if the same Muslim is released after some years, after proven innocent, an Indian innocent is released. When he is being arrested, he is a terrorist, Muslim. When he is released, he becomes innocent. In our legal system, we are told you are innocent until proven guilty. But for political prisoners, the process is punishment. That is the one of the most dangerous idea is the normalization of acceptance of incarceration until the state feels you are a suspicion. So what is the truth? Truth is not, sedition is not just about the content of the speech. It's about the identity of the speaker. Sharjeel, Umar and all other political prisoners are in jail today not because what they did. It's because what they represent. The politically articulate Muslims who refusal to be the passive. From Najib disappearance to incarceration of Sharjeel, Umar and all other political prisoners, there was a clear pattern. This government doesn't tolerate, this government is uncomfortable with the articulate Muslims. And look at our judiciary. Let me tell you one thing clearly, judicial independence is a myth. It becomes a myth. You can see, judiciary and state cannot be separated. A judiciary can never act against the powerful, vengeful government. That is the proof of fascism. And there is a concept called punitive punishment. A government should punish someone. They cannot admit the failure. And so they look for some guilty. It's not necessarily the guilty ones. It's a convenient one. In today's India, the most convenient form of victims are Muslims. In Shaheen Bagh, it was Umar, Sharjeel and others. In Shaheen Bagh, it was a victim punishment. You can see those who are punished, those who are affected, those who are jailed, all are Muslims. That is the pathetic situation of our today's judiciary. Let's take Places of Worship Act 1991. The law that clearly states that the character of religious place must remain as it was on August 15, 1947, except Babri. Why this law was enacted? Because it should ensure the independent India should not be continuously, endlessly fighting for the and litigating over the medieval periods. That was the purpose of this law. So what's happening? If that is the case, then what is the purpose of surveying mosque? Why so much obsession in digging up the mosque? This fellow, former Chief Justice Chandrachud, his statement, his judgment on Yan Wabi case has opened the floodgate of such surveying the mosque. He was saying, mosques will not be changed to temple, but you should know what was there, what was existed centuries ago. If it cannot be altered from pre-independence status, then what is the purpose of knowing? What will you do after you knowing? Will you be silent? Let's say, if it is being found, there was a temple and the temple was demolished to build the mosque. What will happen after knowing? Will these Hindutva forces be silent? Will they let mosque to be a mosque? This is very common sense. Imagine what if that disputed land in Babri case been given to Muslims? Another Gujarat 2002 Muzaffarnagar would have happened. This is very common sense, and these people are sitting in that responsible position, have no concerns for the society. We don't need to imagine, we don't need imagination. We have a history. Take Babri. Supreme Court clearly tells that the demolition of Babur Masjid was illegal, and there was no evidence that Babur demolished the temple to build the mosque. Yet, the complete land was given to construct the temple. And Supreme Court is acknowledging that demolition of mosque was illegal, but no one is punished. So when we talk about these things and all, anti-national, you will be framed as anti-national. Let me tell you one thing clearly. Criticizing the government doesn't mean criticizing the country. You can love your country without loving your government. My love for India is my love for Constitution, not my love for my current administration. 6 years is it's a long enough for families to exhaust, long enough for fading public administration. So we cannot apply for a bail for next 1 year. As a responsible citizen, students, academics, activists, journalists and lawyers, we just need to, it's not responsibility, not just express outrage. We have to name what's happening clearly. So silence in such a situation is not neutrality, it's a complicity. When there is a fight between wolf and goat, if we are saying we are neutral, it's not neutral. That we are standing, it means we are standing by the wolf, because who is the powerful party here matters the most. So before I conclude, I would like to tell this political incarceration is a global phenomenon. Palestinian prisoners spend decades in prisons in Israel. So there is a beautiful poem by Muhammad Darwish, a great Palestinian poet, Under Siege. So like he captures this spirit in his poem Under Siege. I just want to recite some of the lines from this poem. Here on the slopes of hills, facing the dusk and the cannon of time, close to the gardens of broken shadows, we do what prisoners do, and what the jobless do, we cultivate hope. You might have heard of sperm smuggling. Palestinian prisoners spend decades in Israel. They smuggle their sperm out of prison so that their wives could conceive through IVF. So Palestinian prisoners, they do not cultivate power. They do not cultivate domination. They cultivate hope. So their prisons control their bodies, but it's not controlling the futures. It's not controlling the memories. It's not controlling their longings. So as like every prisoners, people here also should cultivate hope everywhere through speeches like this, through programs, through protests, through solidarity, whatever mean we can. So I would like to tell, until Sharjeel, Umar and all other political prisoners are free, no one is free here. Thank you. Jai Bhim.